Okay, we're going to investigate linear pairs of angles. So linear pairs, well, we'll define them in a minute. First, we're going to go ahead and do this sketch. It says using a straight edge and then measure, but we're going to switch over to GeoGebra and do this construction and measure it on GeoGebra to get more exact answers. So just follow along with me. I'll be doing this with you. So go ahead and just draw a little sketch of an X here and try to avoid perpendicular lines because they don't make very much sense. Well, it's not that they don't make sense, they just don't give you the same conclusion that we would like to see. It'll be hard to find a pattern if all the angles are 90 degrees. So what we're going to do is go ahead and switch over to GeoGebra, and we're going to draw the same sketch. So I'll pull up GeoGebra, and I'm going to use my basic tools. Use my basic tools, and I'll just do 2 points. So there's segment A, and there's segment B, and then I need my point tool to put an intersection right there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is measure all 4 angles. So what I'm going to do is click on the first measure button, which is an angle, but I'm going to use 3 points. I'm going to click on A, then E, then D, and that should measure angle AED, and mine is 103.52 degrees. Okay, then I'm going to measure again angle DEB. So I'll click on D, then the vertex E, and then B. And so its measurement popped up. It's 76.48. Your measurements obviously are not going to be the same as mine because you are looking at a different sketch than I'm looking at. I'm going to keep doing that for all 4 angles. So I'm going to click on B, then E, then C. There's another angle. And finally C, then E, then A. And they're all 4 of my measurements. Alright, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Go back to my picture, and I'm going to copy down those measurements. I have 103.552. So this angle on my picture is 103.52. And then I have 76 point. Go ahead and copy your measurements. I'm going to put the vertices on here also so that I know what angles I'm talking about. Okay. Step 2, you might already see some patterns that are showing up if you compare your measurements to my measurements, and we'll make some conjectures about those patterns in just a second. So number 2 says define a linear pair using the terms intersecting lines and adjacent angles. So a linear pair would be a pair of angles that form a line. For example, these 2 angles right here are a linear pair. So a linear pair are adjacent angles formed, how did I make those? By 2 intersecting lines whose non-shared sides form a line. Alright, so angle AED and angle DEB are an example of 2 angles that are a linear pair. They do form a line with their non-shared sides. They have a shared side. This side is shared. They both have ED. But then the first angle also has this EA, and the other angle has EB. So their non-shared sides are forming that pink line right there. And there's actually 4 different pairs, linear pairs, in this picture. That was the first pair. The second pair would be these 2 angles right here. Angle DEB forms a linear pair with BEC. These two form a linear pair, so angle BEC forms a linear pair with CEA. And we have a third pair, a fourth pair right here. So angle CEA forms a linear pair with AED. All right, maybe you can see a pattern in the measurements, maybe not. We need to write a linear pair postulate. So what you should notice is that any pair of angles that you pick that form a linear pair, if you add their measurements together, like if I add 103.52 to 76.48, and go ahead and add your two measurements together, do you also get 180 degrees? And you absolutely should get 180 degrees. And that makes a lot of sense, since if I start measuring here and measure all the way over here, I've gone a straight line, and the measure of a straight line or a straight angle is 180 degrees. So if two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. Okay, you should also be able to make a conclusion about the non-adjacent angles in this picture. So let's look at the angles that are not next to each other. For example, angle AED is not adjacent to angle BEC. And what do you notice about those measures? They have the same measure. And then angle AEC is not adjacent to angle DEB. They also have the same measure. Okay, those are called vertical angles. So vertical angles are the non-adjacent angles. Okay, we're going to save the proof and do that in class on Monday. We're going to do the proof of vertical angles on Monday, but right now I'm going to get you started on your homework assignment. So in the next video, you're going to watch the beginning of your homework assignment, and then you'll complete the assignment on your own. But just to be clear what we just concluded, if you have two lines that intersect, you can form adjacent angles that are a linear pair, and you can form non-adjacent angles that are vertical. So like angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, angle 2 is the same measure as angle 4, and that is because they are vertical angles. Okay, the linear pairs add up to 180. So the measure of angle 1 added to the measure of angle 2 is 180. Or the measure of angle 2 added to the measure of angle 3, that's 180, and so on. There's two more, right? So that can conclude what we just discovered.